Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned into episode number 558 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. We're glad you're with us tonight, or whenever you happen to be listening. This is going to be one of those shallow dive, deep dive episodes that we have done a couple of times in the past. So thanks for joining us. Hope you find something amusing and potentially informative. But before we get into our topics for tonight, we'll introduce ourselves. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
Bill had the idea that we should just talk about some applications or utilities in the Linux and open source world that we might use that don't get a lot of discussion, perhaps, and might be of interest to people if they knew they existed. And so we rooted around in our tool bags and found some things to talk about. I'm going to let Bill talk first. I have a few here, and I guess we'll just kind of alternate. So you can pick one of the tools out of your tool bag and tell us what it is and what it does.
Sure, yeah. So the first one I think is a pretty useful one. I'm a YouTube watcher of YouTube videos, and I happen to have a premium subscription. But there's an occasion where I'm on a computer that I don't have that subscription, or I don't want to log in my account with that subscription attached. And there's this application that you can get out of the repos. Generally, I think I've got the flat pack called FreeTube, and it is a way to watch YouTube videos without any ads. So, if you don't want to pay a premium subscription and want to see YouTube videos with a very minimal interface and minimal problems kind of getting to videos, and still have the ability to subscribe, watch stuff, download videos for later viewing, or archiving or whatever you want. This is a great application, a great find. It is FreeTube. I'm running version 0.21.3 beta, so it's like totally production ready. I haven't had any problems watching my regular content that I watch or live content, so this works with all the live streams as well. And the interface itself is very reminiscent of the YouTube interface, so if you're familiar with that, you can find it. You can even look at trending videos. It does pull like a cached feed for those trending videos. And I'm assuming in the background it is probably definitely using one of those YouTube downloader things, because there's a slight delay when you click a video to start playing. And then it sort of caches that video as it begins to play. And I just have it. I mean, I have a YouTube account, and I pay for it because I hate ads. But I do have this on a computer down here on my daily driver downstairs, and I do use it quite often. Just to kind of keep up like an extra stream or something like that, just kind of playing in the background. If I want to keep like a news channel or whatever live stream running, I'll just do that instead of having another Chrome tab open, just running YouTube. But yeah, FreeTube. It's free as in beer, I suppose. I would definitely check it out. It's neat and solves a problem if you are not a subscriber and want to take advantage of content without having to wait for the 5 seconds and clicking next on your ad, or getting a video and then getting interrupted with ads. There are definitely zero ads within the context of any of the videos that you can check out via this application, FreeTube. So there's my first app. I figure that's an easy one.
So do you like log into it, or do you just go to the content and then just like...
Yeah, there's no login. Yeah, you just literally open the content. I mean, it's very empty. So they have like on the left-hand side of the UI, you have like subscriptions, like what you would assume would be there. Channels, trending. Trending is the only thing that populates in mine because I don't really have anything subscribed here. They have the most popular tab too, so it's probably using the algo to pick things up. But the nice part about it too is it probably won't do anything special to your account. Since you don't do any logins, there shouldn't be any algorithms that are directing content directly to you. So I kind of find it interesting for that fact too. Like if I go and I play a video, like I'll just play one right here, and it's interesting to see the other recommended videos because they're not going to be based upon my particular play history. They're going to be very specific to the video that I played because it doesn't have any context for my account because there's no browser history or anything else for it to look at.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I also have a premium subscription because I hate the YouTube ad thing. So that might be useful. I mean, usually when I'm watching YouTube, I'm at a place where I am logged in, so it's not generally an issue. But to be able to do it another way sounds like it might be worthwhile sometimes. So I'm going to check that out.
Cool. What do you have on your list first here?
Well, I'm gonna pull my first tool out of the tool bag, and that tool is iPerf. India, Papa, Echo, Romeo, Foxtrot. iPerf. And what this is, and I use this fairly frequently actually on my local network. It's essentially a speed test, but you set up both ends of the connection. So instead of using that big speed test site on the internet, you do this on your own network. So like because I have some cables that I've dug in the yard and stuff like that, and if I want to make sure that my connection speeds are good, I'll go to one of my Linux servers and fire up iPerf in server mode, which is the -S option, or you can actually run it with a -D, which puts it into daemon mode, so it runs all the time. And then you run iPerf-C in client mode on another machine, and it basically just, rams packets down the pipe and tells you what kind of throughput you're getting. To me, that's really useful if you think, you're having some sort of latency issues and stuff like that. It'll tell you that. I see that they've also added things like disk read and write, like disk I/O tests and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. You can have a server responding to multiple client connections. So, I mean, I assume that there will be some loss there if you have multiple connections at the same time, but you'll still get a good idea of, what kind of throughput you're getting. And I find it really useful on local connections, especially between my houses here and my shop building. So I can tell, are my gigabit connections really giving me a gigabit? It turns out that they are. So
good sign.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. But it's a free utility. I mean, it's an apt install or a yum install or a DNF install or a PA Mac install or whatever, away on whatever distribution you're using. And let's see, is there anything else in here that I don't really use? I guess it's version 3 now. It's BSD licensed, so definitely open source. And yeah, you can also get your test outputs in JSON format if you're really nerdy. So
so you can write an application against it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty capable, very lightweight. And if you need to do some, they also have their own servers. So if you want to not use that big speed test server that's on the interwebs and you want to test against their servers, you can do that as well. So you can actually get internet speed tests as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And it will also test over UDP if you want. So yeah, it's got some neat features, really easy to use. Like I said, you set up a server on one side, client on the other side, bingity bangity boom, and you get some numbers. So I find it useful, and maybe you all will too.
Yeah, I can see how that'd be. I think that's always a struggle when you're dealing with internal networking things, like I even think like on my Tailscale network, kind of connecting to devices that are far apart and trying to see exactly like the speed between the devices and the speed of using the whatever WireGuard or it's WireGuard, yeah, VPN tunneling and stuff like that. I could see that it'd be very useful to kind of give you that blueprint of how your performance internally within your own network or your own VPN is there, because you don't normally get a good idea of that beyond just the look and feel, right? Because you only have like fast.com and Ookla and all these other 1,000 different speed tests that are out there on the internet, but those only go to a CDN or something like that. So that's actually a pretty cool tool. I'm glad I know about it now.
Well, I'm glad you know about it too. And presumably that if you're using like your Tailscale addressing, it will, of course, force the packets over the tunnel interface. So you'll see what kind of overhead is being generated and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be useful. I haven't tested it across Tailscale locally to see how much loss there is, but that might be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, Russ's whole list here is pretty good from what I can tell. my list is pretty much just GUI apps, because I'm just a GUI user on my daily driver down here in the garage. So
are you going to talk about Yuki? I hope you are, because I have questions.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, I am. That's the next app that I'm going to talk about. So the next app is Yuki IPTV. That's YUKI-IPTV. And this is an IPTV player with, what they say, EPG support, which I have absolutely no idea what that means.
Well, I don't have to ask you that question then.
Yeah. Google that. I have no idea what that means. I'm assuming it's something probably transport related.
It's not. I can actually tell you what it is if you'd like to know.
Oh, yeah, sure. What does that mean?
It stands for Electronic Program Guide. It's your
the TV guide.
Yeah.
I was just downloading that because I saw that. I was trying to go through all the things that I don't use that I don't use on it. And one of the things I don't use on it is the TV guide to see exactly what is on TV, which I see that it was just syncing when I clicked into it a little bit earlier. But basically, Yuki IPTV is kind of similar to an application that I learned about with, I believe, Linux Mint has Hypnotics. And I know we've talked about Hypnotics in the past on a previous episode. You can use that fancy search feature in our website to figure out what episode we mentioned Hypnotics. Because I'm on Fedora and I couldn't see Hypnotics available out there, and I wasn't going to compile it and stuff like that. So I was like, well, it can't be the only application out there that can read all these M3U playlists and stuff like that for channels all over the world. Sure enough, I found Yuki IPTV, and I found a Git repository that had a list of all the active channels that people curate or find and stuff like that from all over the world. So in my channel list, I have basically a country drop down of I would say probably about 70 countries here, including Costa Rica, Belgium, Georgia, Germany, Greece, Greenland, whatnot, Hong Kong. And then each one of these, when you select the country, it'll pick up the TV stations and what their little icon is for their TV station. And hopefully when you double click it, it attempts to start to play the stream for that TV station. So you can watch, local TV in other countries if it's not region locked or blocked by something else. And you will find that for sure on some channels, especially those that are specific to region locked areas and whatnot like that. So, but for the most part, if it's a public channel that maybe you have tried to get on, let's say, like a Pluto TV or one of these various, 5,000 TV channel apps. This is something that's out there that you can possibly watch some interesting TV shows in other markets. And I'm just trying to see if one pops up here. I'm getting a lot of playback error. So maybe I need to update my latest list. But anyway, it's definitely an interesting little application to explore international TV stations. And for the most part, it is pretty good. You can stream as high a resolution as they put out in the stream. So you have the ability to, I think, downscale it and what have you. It does do a little bit of caching as it brings up the stream. So once it runs, it should be able to start keeping the stream going. And I just popped up one station, but then it started getting too loud, so I turned it off. It's a very simple interface. Kind of reminds me of, something very basic, like almost like a VLC or something like that. You're not going to get anything fancy out of this, but you do have the ability to do, various video modes, full screen, what have you. You can take screenshots directly in it. You can go full screen. You can track stuff. You can do subtitles if it's provided. A bunch of extra settings and whatnot in here, how you want to handle stuff. If you're going to go through a network proxy, you can set that up. You can do different actions. Here's your EPG, the player's guide. You can have it update every time at boot, or you can have it not cache it and whatnot. But yeah, this is actually pretty slick. They have a few experimental features like automatic reconnection if it's disconnected and multicast optimization, should that be something you're using. And then you could also find online the channel list and channel curation stuff that's out there. And I don't have that directly on here, but I'm going to find it and I'll put it in the show notes as soon as I find the list that I downloaded, because I don't believe it doesn't come pre-populated with stations on it. I definitely downloaded a list that I imported into this. So it's 280 stations, I believe, is what I have here. It's currently updating the TV guide right now. But that's Yuki IPTV. Definitely a cool little application for watching various IPTV streams around the world.
All right. So the two questions I was going to ask, was the first one was, how do you set up the EPG, which you apparently have done. So I know it's a separate application, or I believe it's a separate application.
I don't think so. I mean, it's currently updating the TV guide right now in the application as I'm talking to you.
All right. I might have to play around with that a little bit. And then it's, of course, based on like M3U playlists.
Yes.
And I was going to ask you where you got yours. I found a few on Reddit, which had some programming I could actually watch. But I am interested in the one you found. So.
Yeah, and I think I found mine also on Reddit because I was looking for an alternative to Hypnotics, and that's when I ran across this list, and then I ran across the application as well. So, yeah, I will definitely find it. I'm sure I have it saved somewhere. I just have to find it in my history.
All right, that would be great. I will add it to my Yuki install. All right, yeah, because you mentioned it the other day in the chat, and I was like, oh, I'll see what this is all about. And yeah, I got to watch some cool stuff. I watched an old episode of Hawaii Five-0. All right, very good. So the next thing I have in my tool bag is it's a browser, actually. It's called Pale Moon, and the only reason I'm even mentioning this is because I have a very specific use case for it that might be of interest to other people who have potentially a similar issue to my issue. Now, Pale Moon is a fork of Firefox. It is released under the MPL, so it is, has all the same open source goodiness of Firefox. It literally is Firefox. I mean, once you fire it up, you'll recognize it as Firefox with a different skin. They do now have a dark mode, so another plus for Pale Moon. And you'll find that there are some additional features to Pale Moon over Mozilla because it's a different project. It's got different developers, and they've, of course, added some things. And I'm just going to leave you to run down through like the feature list to figure out what the differences between Firefox and Pale Moon are. But the only reason I know about it is because it has one very specific feature that is useful to me. And for those people who know that SSL and TLS encryption are being updated constantly. The algorithms are changing. The ciphers are different. And what's happening is the newer browsers, like when newer versions of Firefox and stuff come out, they drop support for the older encryption algorithms. The last, I think it's TLS 1.0, which of course is highly insecure, but there is a site that I have to go to and have to maintain that cannot be updated. It is something that is being phased out, but is currently still required. But versions of Firefox after version 32 dropped support for TLS 1.0 encryption. So it is a, shall we say, freaking nightmare to load sites into Chrome or Opera or any of those browsers that are looking at sites that only have TLS 1.0 encryption. Pale Moon, however, still supports it. So I just fire up Pale Moon. I go to that website. It's just like nothing ever happened, no TLS issues, and I'm able to get in and manage it. And then, of course, when that site eventually does go away, then my use of Pale Moon shall also go away. But in the meantime, I find that particularly useful. And like I said, it does have other enhancements over Firefox. So if you are a Firefox user, you may want to check out Pale Moon and see what the differences are just for your own personal use. I'm personally not a Firefox user, but for those people who do, it might be an interesting look because it gets you away from the actual Mozilla Foundation and blah, 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 if that's the thing that bothers you or whatever. So there may be multiple reasons to check it out, but I gave you mine. Check out the feature list and see if you just want to use it over Firefox if that's the tool you normally use.
Who uses Firefox anymore?
Exactly. But, I'm willing to bet somebody will say they do.
I occasionally use it for just compatibility, just to see website testing.
So that's my little treatise on Pale Moon. Maybe it'll help somebody out. It certainly helps me out, at least for the time being.
Definitely one I haven't heard of, so I'll definitely look into that. That's pretty interesting. My third application is one I have mentioned in the past. I'm just I just have a lot of fun using it because this is called the Heroic Games Launcher. It is not unpopular by any means, but I think a lot of people probably don't bother with it because they think they have to buy games and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, I don't have maybe have one bought game out of the 326 games I have on it. This is a launcher that allows you in Linux to launch games from the stores of Epic, so the Epic Store. I mean, of course, minus all the EAC games like Fortnite and stuff like that. The GOG Store or Prime Gaming. So you have 3 different stores that you can interface with games with. Some of those stores have free games, like the Epic Store. So when I started playing Fortnite in the Epic Store on my Windows box, I was noticing that they do like free game giveaways, which we've all learned, especially recently, that you do not own these games. You just have a temporary license to play them until the interface dies or the store dies and stuff like that. Obviously, with all the cases against GTA over in Europe and stuff like that for breaking support for Linux and stuff like that by turning on anti-cheat or something like that, and killing the ability of Linux computers to run GTA 4 and so on. But yeah, this is different, obviously. So yeah, every week they give like 2 different games away, and you can just add them to your library. And I do this on a regular basis. So I go like every Thursday or Friday and like, oh yeah, I should click and see what games they have. Some of them are complete crap, but some of them are not too bad. But I do add them always, so they're always against my account. And I've gone in and with Heroic Games Launcher, it has the ability to use Proton, Wine. So it has the same ability to use the stuff that's over in Steam to make the games run. They are sort of curated a bit for configuration so that You can tell like there's a playability when you click into the game. Click into a various game, like I'm doing 20 minutes till dawn. Like, who plays that game, right? It tells you a little bit of information on the game. It tells you how much space the game takes, its install size, and then it also tells you its Proton compatibility tier. And this particular game is Platinum, so it probably will play just fine. It also tells you Steam Deck compatibility, and then any system requirements, if there's any, with the game that are out of the ordinary. And I'm always impressed. Like, I just I downloaded the Spirit and the Mouse the other week. I think it was last week's game or maybe the week before last game. You know, just basically click the install button in Heroic and click the play now, and no problems. Like, I didn't have to do a darn thing, no configuration or anything else like that. It took care of everything, and it just came up and it worked. You know, much like you would expect the Steam launcher to work. But if you have, you know, a bunch of stuff in your Epic Games library, it'll sync over to this, so you can go ahead and install those games and try them out. And I have played everything, you know, from the free games, which include like BioShock and all of those games, BioShock 2 and so on, to, what are some other games that I have on here? The Fallout series games are on here because they were free at one time. Lego games, you name it. I have probably clicked the add it to my account. Saints Row is on here. Silent Age. Some of the games that run their own custom launcher, like Origin games, I think that would probably fall like the Star Wars games. Those do not run so well because they run a separate launcher for them. But I've also, with this app, tried to just do an install from disk, basically, where, you know, I had the installer and I just had it try to install a game. And surprisingly, it worked. So it can also handle just installing games sort of side-loaded. If you're familiar with the other game launcher called Lutris, which a lot of people use for kind of one-off games like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. This kind of can sit in that same area and run those games. In fact, like I think I did do an install of GTA 4 on this at the time, and it says the store is other in my list of games, so I can tell that it doesn't come from a store specifically. So it also allows you to do that, and those do work with. I don't think I had to do anything special to get it working when it was still working. Last time I checked, it wasn't working. So, but that's because they broke something for basically all Linux installations to run the emulation software. But Heroic Games Launcher is a GPL v3 application. So it has its own set of stuff that you can read through its GitHub account, as well as they have a full wiki and documentation on everything that they do there, and what should work, what doesn't work. In fact, here they say currently only games that require activation in Origin are unsupported. Legendary recently added support with certain games to activate command, so expect support for in a future release. There might be a case in which you can run an Origin game on here, but I digress. It's a great app. It's one of the two apps that I use to do most of the gaming on this particular computer. So I have this and I have Steam. I really haven't had to add anything else, except for Prism for Minecraft. So I have that as a separate thing. But check it out. It's a Heroic Games launcher. All right.
I have not heard of that one. I will definitely check it out. I have gone through some of the other, engine front ends and downloaded some of the free games that they have. But I got to say, I'm not really a gamer except for a retro gamer. But, free stuff is free and might find something interesting in there.
Yeah. I'm always like I say, they just give it away. So I'm like, I'll add it to my list. And if I play it, I play it. If I don't, then it doesn't matter. But I kind of use it every once in a while just to play something very random. And I'll just throw it up on my, occasionally on my gaming Twitch stream. So
yeah, very cool. So my last one here will probably go pretty quick. And it's a utility. It's a command line utility. It's actually a script because it's written in Python, but it's called ID3, Echo Yankee Echo Delta 3. And this is part of my podcast process. When I'm done with my processing of the audio files in Audacity, then I do all of the other stuff using a big bash script. And part of that bash script uses ID3. And what it is you may be able to figure it out from how it sounds when you say it, as opposed to the way it looks when you read it. But it's a tag editor for MP3 files. And it's really easy to use. It's totally scriptable. Everything is, just options. You can say ID3, -- author, -- create time, -- track number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It allows you to manipulate the tags inside of MP3 files right from the command line. Of course, its power lies in its scripting capability, which is how I used it, and it simplifies my process quite effectively. So there are other tools for doing different file formats, because like OGs are in Vorbis format, so there's a Vorbis tools. FLAC, of course, is FLAC format. There's a FLAC tools, and they all sort of do the same thing. They do them sort of differently, different options, to each one. But I just picked the one that does MP3 files. And of course, it will also show you the tags in MP3 files that you get from somewhere else. So if you download a file and you want to see all of the, the common files and the authorship files and all of that stuff, whether it's music or audiobooks or whatever, you can just throw ID3 at it and it will dump the information out for you. And it's a tool that I use a lot, find it pretty useful, and maybe you will as well.
Yeah, it's cool that it's all on the command line, so you can add it in. I was talking to Russ earlier about the my use of taglib, which is one that's just a module by itself. But this one you could also use as a module inside of a Python script, so that makes it doubly useful. Not only do you get the ability to use it as a module, but also that it provides a script that you can just execute on the command line and do some stuff in line, parsing the arguments. So that's pretty slick.
Yeah, I presume, since ID3 is written in Python, that while it's presented as a command line application, I'm sure there's also an importable module for it as well if you actually want to use it inside of a Python script as opposed to a bash script or whatever. I'm sure it's out there. It's probably like, Python 3-ID3 or something like that in your import list. I'm almost willing to bet it's out there. So
yeah, you can just pip install, ID3 or whatever, and it'll install not only the script and probably installs the module as well that you can import. So I think it's like a double duty installer. So how did you install it? Did you use Picpex, or what did you use to install it?
No, I just apt installed it because it's an application that's in the repo. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay,
yeah.
Cool. So maybe, the module, maybe it's separate in that case for if you're downloading that, because you probably didn't do a Python 3-ID3.
No, I did not. And the reason I did that is because I was actually doing all the processing of the podcast files on a Windows box. I am going to move that soon because I actually have a box that I can use. But I was doing it on my work computer, and I was doing it inside of WSL on an Ubuntu install in WSL. So I just apt installed it for that.
So does it support all the the new podcasting 2.0 tags and stuff like that?
I think it says it supports 2.4. Is that the latest one?
I'm not sure.
I don't know that I can answer that question truthfully.
I think those are all those are for actually the RSS tags. So this is for just tagging the actual MP3 or the audio file itself, right? So the internal tagging.
Right. Yeah,
those are not the same thing. So that would be different.
Right. It supports every version of MP3 from 1. whatever up to 2.4, which presumably is the latest version. So
yeah, I was just seeing they have like a bunch of plugins that you can add to it as well, which adds things like classic tag viewer editor, a display tag, so you can display, you can do an extract on it as well. Fix up for a directory fixer. That's kind of cool. And go through and retag stuff that maybe you ripped and didn't tag properly. iTunes podcast tagger to convert so that iTunes recognize them as podcasts.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention that is really cool, and I can't remember how it actually works. I can't remember if you have to MIME encode it or not, but it actually will put the images into the MP3s as well.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, because I notice, well, this leads me into a tangent, but it's probably good. We can talk about it because it has to do with the podcast. I was noticing that over on our YouTube channel, that all of our podcast episodes are automatically coming in to the YouTube channel. They're not going straight to published, but they are coming in with the original, just the standard podcast logo. So not like a episode specific logo, because I don't think you replace that every time. So like that's just an image you use to announce it on the website and stuff like that.
Right. I just put the LHS logo into the files. I don't actually put the episode logo in the file.
Yeah. So I was noticing, and that's a sort of like if you are someone who actually listens to the podcast on YouTube, which, okay, I get it. Now YouTube Music technically plays podcasts and stuff like that. I think it's slightly separated from the YouTube Music podcast stream because I think that comes directly from the RSS feed. But the actual YouTube video podcast list is also being populated from that. Yeah, I was wondering if we should just publish those as is. And this might be a question really for our people that listen to us. So maybe this is a great listener feedback question for you all, is if you want me to just publish them as is on the YouTube, or do you want me to go through and edit them? Meaning, at least change the image, the thumbnail that's used, so it'll be a custom thumbnail, and then clean up the description that kind of comes across in the description file or the description of the video, because it's a little polluted with episode and weird formatting, meaning lots of character turns and stuff like that. I mean, it would save me having to do an actual video with the image embedded into it, because I just did a whole bunch and I was starting to upload them, and then I said, "Oh, wow, there's already the episodes there." So yeah, maybe if we can get some feedback on that, if you actually check those out, whether you care whether they have the customized image throughout the entire play of the podcast on YouTube, or whether that does not really matter. You just want the content no matter what, and want it out as fast as it gets published, like the regular podcast. So that would be pretty useful for me, because it takes all the information, I think, from not only the RSS feed but probably also the MP3 tagging.
Yeah, who knows what YouTube does to the stuff you send it? They could be.
Yeah. It's weird. You should log into the channel and check it out, because it is weird. And I was like, I was kind of hesitant. I was like, I would just publish these as is, and then I got all the scary warnings when I start editing that, like, oh, this will never be updated from RSS again and stuff like that, which I don't think terribly matters for the video side of the channel. So, but yeah, I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit of feedback if those of you that maybe listen to our podcast through a regular podcatching device or application or what have you, versus also listening occasionally in YouTube.
Yeah, very cool. If you have anything to say on that, info@lhspodcast.info, or just hit one of us up on Discord. We would appreciate any and all feedback. Those are my three tools, and you hit your tools. Do you have anything else to add, or are we good to wrap this one?
Any honorable mentions? I mean, a few things that I use very regularly, of course, being a Pipewire system, the QPW Pipewire. We've talked about it in the past. That's a very useful app if you want to link other apps and stuff like that into your Pipewire. So check that out. Another cool little app along with that would be Easy Effects. Easy Effects is kind of like Pulse Effects. That's been reworked for Pipewire, and allows you to add various components to not only input sounds, so like my microphone and stuff like that can go through Easy Effects, but like if I wanted to massage the output of stuff, like run it through an EQ or a compressor or a bass enhancer or what have you, it's a great little app to kind of do that. It saves per app settings and stuff like that. and then also integrates perfectly with Pipewire. So it does add a little bit of confusion to the Pipewire graph as soon as you turn it on, because it attaches itself to every single input and output device. So you'll start seeing a very interesting view of your Pipewire audio graph in the system. But it's another kind of cool little thing that you can play around with to enhance your both input and output audio using a Pipewire system. So Easy Effects and QPW Graph are honorable mentions from my shack.
All right, very good. If we ever do one of these again, or maybe we'll, in a short topics episode, I will put out one topic that I was listening to Cubicle Nate's podcast called Linux Out Loud earlier today. They just reached 100 episodes on YouTube, so congrats to them. We were talking about various things, but what did come up toward the end of the discussion were a couple of options for remote KVM applications that might work with Wayland. And I want to look into those and see if it's true. And if it is, I will definitely mention them, because that means I can drop a barrier in the bucket, since they don't seem to be moving into the Wayland world, and might have some options there. But
yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I've been playing around with several, and would be interested. I'll definitely add that to my podcasting list so I can listen to it. I don't think I've listened to that one before. So it's Linux Out Loud, you said?
It's called Linux Out Loud. They have a Discord. They're on the Discord server called Tux Digital, which has other podcasts on it too. And I believe if you just search Linux Out Loud on YouTube, it is a video podcast, so it's on YouTube.
Oh, is it an audio one though?
I don't know if they have an audio feed or not. I watched it on YouTube, so
we'll have to see. Linux Out Loud.
Yep, I hadn't heard about it either. I saw it pop up on my YouTube. The algorithm showed me that their 100th episode was being live streamed today, and I was like, oh, I can watch that side by side with the Chiefs game, so I did.
Well, I just added it, so I will have to check that out. They definitely have it on the podcast as well. So,
all right, very good. All right, well, that brings us down to the end of our topics for tonight. I don't have any announcements, and I don't believe we got any feedback in the last couple of weeks, so I guess that just means we need to do some social media mentions and wrap this one up. So for new subscribers and Patreons, we have Igor, who is a paid Patreon, so thanks for joining. We have a free Patreon, Aphaeus Mozart, or Aphadeus Mozart. I guess that's supposed to be a take on
Amadeus.
The Amadeus, yeah, Aphadeus Mozart. Nobody on Facebook, which kind of surprises me. We had everybody join on all kinds of other platforms, but nobody on Facebook. I don't know. Maybe we're losing our Facebook mojo. Over on Twitter, we had about 14 spam accounts I deleted, and then some legit ones. Nerd for Floss, Mini Cowman, Flow_0, Santiago La Rosa 5, Tyrion W, and BABQ or AB9QU. So thanks everybody who joined us on Twitter. Yes, I will continue to call it Twitter. Over on YouTube, we had Frank and Ogre, Obagdadi68, Marek Hashevsky, and Dr. Claw. I think that is the proper Polish Hashevsky there. On Discord, we had MCX Adventure, Zastles, Angel, KB3UFG, Elliot KE0N, Brad W9FX, Heavyweight Champ, Bevy, Jiri, Skelf 2020, Paul, Brian R, Max M KF0QYA, and James KJ5CTS. Over on Instagram, we had Greg UTI, hopefully just a name, not a symptom. And on Mastodon, we had DX Joan, Aluata, Bigarfoot, Michael, DK1MI, and N1BSD, awesome call sign, 9 Alpha, and Bassa Tassa.
Bassa Tassa.
Yeah, no merch sales. We had a couple of people join us on the mailing list, AB9IL and N1JUR. And in the live chat tonight, we had Darren VK6EK, Stephen KA7HVT, and Adam K3CAN. So thanks, everybody, for listening to the show. Thanks for those who support us financially and help us keep the lights on. We really appreciate that. We hope you to, continue to listen as we edge closer and closer to our 600th episode. Hard to believe pulling that number out of the hat. It'll be sometime next year, I think. So anyway, hope you all have a great week, and we'll tune into our short topics episode next time around. We'd love to have you. And in the meantime, have a great week, and we'll talk to you all very, very soon. So this has been episode number 558 of Linux in the Ham Shack. And for the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.